My brother stole my business and told everyone I was lazy. Now he's bankrupt, and I own everything he ever wanted. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I thought building a business with my brother would bring us closer. Ryan was always the charming one, the kind of guy who could sell ice to an Eskimo with a smile. Me, I was the quiet, hands-on type. I liked creating things, not talking about them. When our dad passed away, he left us his old woodworking tools and a garage that smelled like sawdust and memories. Ryan came to me one night with a beer in his hand and that confident grin that always made people believe him. "Let's build something real," he said. Dad would have wanted that. Those words hit deep. For once, it felt like we were on the same page, two brothers honoring our father's legacy. I handled the crafting, the sanding, the aching wrists that came from ours at the bench. Ryan took charge of the branding, the sales, the face of the business. It felt fair. At first, customers loved our work. Orders piled up faster than we could keep up. I remember staying up past midnight, finishing a custom dining table while Ryan texted clients about expansion plans. The business started growing, and so did the attention. Family, friends, even neighbors would say, "Ryan's business is doing amazing." I'd smile politely, pretending it didn't sting. Ryan soaked it up, laughing and saying things like, "Yeah, we're killing it," but never once said we when it mattered. I brushed it off, convincing myself he'd give me credit eventually. After all, we were brothers, blood before business, right? But deep down, a quiet ache began to form, the kind that whispers that something's off. And the more I worked, the louder that whisper got. I didn't know it then. That was the beginning of the end. The moment my brother stopped being family and started becoming competition. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I thought building a business with my brother would bring us closer. Ryan was always the charming one, the kind of guy who could sell ice to an Eskimo with a smile. Me, I was the quiet, hands-on type. I liked creating things, not talking about them. When our dad passed away, he left us his old woodworking tools in a garage that smelled like sawdust and memories. Ryan came to me one night with a beer in his hand and that confident grin that always made people believe him. "Let's build something real," he said. Dad would have wanted that. Those words hit deep. For once, it felt like we were on the same page, two brothers honoring our father's legacy. I handled the crafting, the sanding, the aching wrists that came from ours at the bench. Ryan took charge of the branding, the sales, the face of the business. It felt fair at first. Customers loved our work. Orders piled up faster than we could keep up. I remember staying up past midnight, finishing a custom dining table while Ryan texted clients about expansion plans. The business started growing. And so did the attention. Family, friends, even neighbors would say, "Ryan's business is doing amazing." I'd smile politely, pretending it didn't sting. Ryan soaked it up, laughing and saying things like, "Yeah, we're killing it," but never once said we when it mattered. I brushed it off, convincing myself he'd give me credit eventually. After all, we were brothers, blood before business. Right. But deep down, a quiet ache began to form, the kind that whispers that something's off. And the more I worked, the louder that whisper got. I didn't know it then. But that was the beginning of the end, the moment my brother stopped being family and started becoming competition. I remember the night everything started unraveling. It was late, well past midnight, and I was in the office catching up on paperwork. Ryan had left hours earlier, saying he had a meeting with investors. I didn't think much of it until I noticed something strange in the invoices. Payments were missing. Orders we'd completed weeks ago showed pending or unpaid. But the clients weren't complaining, in fact. One had just emailed thanking us for the quick turnaround. That's when I opened the business account. My stomach dropped. Thousands of dollars had been transferred out into a separate account under Ryan's name. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. When I confronted him the next morning, he didn't even flinch. "Relax," he said, smirking. "It's just a tax thing. I'm optimizing the accounts. You wouldn't understand." "Optimizing," snapped. "You moved money without telling me," Ryan leaned back in his chair, looking amused. "You're overreacting. I'm handling the business side." You just keep making the tables. Yet. That line, you just keep making the tables, burned into me. I wanted to shout, to throw every invoice in his face, but I didn't. I'd grown up with Ryan. I knew his tone. Once he switched into calm and logical, arguing was pointless. I told myself it was temporary, that he was still my brother, that he wouldn't actually betray me. I wanted to believe that more than I wanted the truth. But over the next few weeks, things got worse. Clients started calling him directly. Some orders never reached me at all. When I checked our email, I realized he'd changed the password. That night, sitting alone in the shop surrounded by half-finished furniture and silent tools, I felt it for the first time, that cold, hollow certainty. Ryan wasn't just managing the business anymore. He was quietly cutting me out of it. The real punch in the gut came a few weeks later. Ryan told me we'd been nominated for a local Small Business Excellence Award. I was shocked and proud. It felt like all those sleepless nights, all those splinters and burns on my hands had finally meant something.
I even bought a new shirt for the event.
One that didn't smell like sawdust for once. The night of the ceremony, I sat beside Ryan at the front table, heart pounding with anticipation. When our company's name was announced, he shot me a grin and stood up. I started to rise with him, but he waved subtly for me to stay seated. "I'll handle it," he whispered. I didn't think much of it until he got on stage. Ryan accepted, the award flashing that charming grin of his, and began his speech. "This business was my dream," he said into the mic. "I built it from the ground up, through late nights and hard lessons." The audience applauded, cameras flashed, and I just sat there, frozen. Not once did he mention our father's garage. Not once did he say, we people came up to him afterward, shaking his hand, calling him an inspiration. A reporter even asked for an interview. When they looked at me, it was only to say, "You must be proud of your brother." Proud. I felt sick. My throat burned as I tried to smile. Later, Mom hugged Ryan and whispered, "Your father would be so proud of you." She didn't even look at me. That night, I went back to the shop alone. The award sat on Ryan's desk, shining under the office light, my reflection warped in its surface. I reached out to touch it, but pulled my hand back. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just invisible in my brother's story. I'd been erased. And deep down, something started to shift in me. Something that would soon destroy the illusion of brotherhood for good. A few weeks after the award ceremony, I found the proof that shattered everything. I was doing inventory when a delivery driver came by asking for Ryan's business signature. That word Ryan's business didn't sit right. I asked to see the paperwork, and there it was, the official registration documents for our company. I listed under Ryan Matthews, sole proprietor. My name was gone, completely wiped. I couldn't breathe. My hands trembled as I drove to his apartment that night, clutching the papers like evidence in a crime scene. Ryan opened the door, shirt half-buttoned, a drink in his hand, acting like nothing was wrong. "What the hell is this?" I slammed the papers onto his kitchen counter. He barely glanced at them. "Oh, that. Yeah, I had to restructure things for efficiency." "Efficiency? You removed me from our company? You stole it?" He gave this half smile, the kind that says he's already decided you've lost. "Don't be dramatic. You were never built for leadership. You're a great worker, but you don't run things." I kept it alive. My pulse roared in my ears. Alive? I built every damn thing with my hands while you posed for photos. Ryan's voice hardened. "Careful, you sound jealous." That was it. The snap. I lunged, shoving him back as years of resentment boiled over. We struggled, shouting over each other until he yelled, "This is my name on the business now, so get over it." I stopped cold. That's when I knew there was no saving it. No brotherhood. No family loyalty. Just greed. I walked out, my chest hollow and my throat burning. That night, I sat in Dad's old garage, the same place where it all began, surrounded by dust, silence, and betrayal, so heavy it felt physical. Everything we built together was gone. My family believed him. Our reputation was trashed. And for the first time in my life, I didn't just feel betrayed, I felt replaced. But I also felt something else quietly ignite beneath the pain, a cold, calculated determination. If Ryan wanted the empire, he could have it. I'd build something that would make his collapse inevitable. For weeks after the fallout, I drifted through life like a ghost. My phone barely buzzed. Clients had stopped calling. Family stopped asking questions. Everyone believed Ryan's version of the story, that I was lazy, bitter, and couldn't handle responsibility. I tried applying for jobs, but every time someone recognized my last name, the conversation died before it began. Ryan had tainted my name so thoroughly it felt like he'd branded me a failure. Then one night, while scrolling aimlessly through my old business email, I saw a message from a past client named Amanda. She wrote, "Hey, I don't know what happened between you and your brother, but I'd rather work with you directly. You were always the honest one." His words. "You were always the honest one." Cracked something open inside me. I still had my father's old tools. A few leftover materials, and a half-functioning workbench. So, I started again, alone. My apartment's tiny balcony became my new workshop. The neighbors probably hated the sound of sanding and hammering at 2 a.m., but for the first time in months, I felt alive. I built small pieces, shelves, coffee tables, custom wooden nameplates, and started posting them online. I didn't have fancy marketing or flashy slogans, just videos of my hands working and captions that said, "Made by me from the heart." Then, out of nowhere, one of my posts went viral. A short clip showing my father's old chisel and a caption that read, "He taught me to build, not to steal." People resonated with it. Thousands of comments poured in, praising my craftsmanship and authenticity. Orders flooded my inbox. Meanwhile, word spread that Ryan's company was struggling with delayed orders and angry customers. His polished image was starting to crack, for the first time in a long time. I didn't feel powerless anymore. The brother who called me lazy had no idea that the quiet one he erased was already rising from the ashes, one handcrafted, piece at a time. What started as a handful of small orders turned into something I could barely keep up with. Within 3 months, my living room looked like a full-blown workshop, planks stacked against walls, the air thick with sawdust, and my laptop constantly pinging with new requests. People didn't just want my furniture. They wanted my story. They saw something raw and real in it. The quiet craftsman fighting back after being betrayed. One customer messaged me, "Your work reminds me that good people still exist." That hit deep. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding myself, piece by piece. I named my new business True Grain Studio. Every product had my initials carved beneath the surface, a quiet declaration that I existed, that I mattered. The orders multiplied, and soon I had to rent a small workspace. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Meanwhile, I started hearing whispers about Ryan. His once thriving empire was cracking under pressure. Clients complained about quality issues, and a few even reached out to me, saying they'd rather deal with the brother who actually cares. I didn't need to. His arrogance was doing the job for me. Then one afternoon, while I was sanding a coffee table, my mom called. Her voice was softer than usual. "Your brother's been having a hard time lately," she said. "Maybe reach out?" I almost laughed. The irony was brutal. When I was the one struggling, I was lazy, now that Ryan was slipping. He was having a hard time, I told her gently. "I'm busy building something right now," and I meant it. Not just furniture. But my life, as I hung up, I realized I didn't crave revenge anymore. I just wanted peace, and that peace came from watching my hands create while his world began to fall apart. But life wasn't done testing me yet, and the next time Ryan showed up, it wouldn't be with charm. It would be with desperation. By the end of the year, Ryan's downfall had gone from whispers to headlines. His company, the one he stole from me, was in chaos. Orders were months behind schedule. Clients were demanding refunds. And employees were quitting faster than he could replace them. I'd occasionally catch glimpses of him on social media, his smile tighter, his eyes hollow. He still tried to project success luxury car posts. Fake motivational quotes, but the comments told the truth. "Didn't you scam your customers? Where's my order, Ryan?" Meanwhile, True Grain Studio was thriving. Every piece I made sold out within days. I even hired 2 apprentices from the local trade school. The shop was small, but alive. Laughter, music, and the steady rhythm of tools filled the air. I remember standing there one evening, hands stained with varnish, and realizing that I had built something Ryan never could: respect. Then one day, a supplier I used to work with under our old business called me. "You know, your brother owes us thousands," he said. "He's blaming you for it." I froze for a moment, then just laughed. The same man who'd stolen my business was now using my name to dodge accountability. It was pathetic. Within weeks, Ryan's company officially shut down. The bank repossessed his warehouse, his car, even his fancy apartment. I didn't celebrate, not exactly. Watching him lose everything didn't bring me joy, just clarity. I stopped checking his social media after that. I didn't need to. People who build on lies always collapse under the weight of them. Still, a part of me knew it wasn't over. People like Ryan don't disappear quietly. They claw, they beg, they manipulate, and I was right, because one stormy afternoon, as I was closing the shop, I heard the knock on my door that would change everything again. When I opened it, my brother was standing there, drenched, desperate, and finally stripped of the arrogance that once made him untouchable. I stood there, staring at him through the rain. Ryan looked nothing like the man who once strutted across stages, charming investors and shaking hands like a king. His clothes were soaked, his eyes bloodshot, his voice cracked when he finally spoke. "Can we talk?" he asked, shivering slightly. I hesitated. Every part of me wanted to slam the door, but some foolish part, the brother still buried deep inside, told me to listen. I stepped aside. He glanced around my shop, taking in the tools, the smell of pine and varnish, the steady hum of success. "So this is where you've been hiding," he muttered. "I'm not hiding," I said quietly. "I'm rebuilding," he scoffed, bitterness seeping through. "You think you're better than me now? Because you make coffee tables for Instagram?" I clenched my jaw but kept calm. "No, Ryan. I just stopped lying to myself. You should try it sometime." He slammed his fist on the table. "You owe me. You used our contacts, our clients." I cut him off. "You made sure there was no hour when you stole the company. Remember?" For a moment, he said nothing. Then, softer, "I lost everything. The house, the business. Even Mom won't talk to me." His voice cracked. "I need your help. I can't start over alone." It was the first time I'd ever seen him look small, and part of me wanted to forgive him. But then I remembered every sleepless night, every insult, every lie. I shook my head. "You didn't lose everything, Ryan. You just lost control. And that's not something I can give back to you." He glared at me, rain dripping from his jaw. "You'll regret this," he hissed before storming out into the night. I watched him disappear down the street, a shadow, swallowed by his own pride. And though part of me ached, another part felt something I hadn't felt in years. Closure was coming. A month after that confrontation, the story hit the news. Local business outlets and social media pages were flooded with headlines like "Matthews Woodcraft declares bankruptcy amid fraud allegations." My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from old acquaintances. "Is this your brother? Didn't you guys start that together?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The world was finally seeing what I had known all along. Reporters uncovered that Ryan had falsified invoices and overcharged clients and taken out personal loans in the company's name. The comments were brutal. People calling him a con artist, a narcissist, a scammer. The same followers who once praised him for his vision now mocked him for his downfall. One afternoon, a local journalist reached out to me for an interview. "You were part of the original team, right?" she asked. I hesitated, but agreed. Sitting across from her, I didn't rant or gloat. I just told the truth about hard work, about integrity, about being erased. When the article went live, it was titled "The Brother Who Built," and the one who burned it down? It went viral overnight. People flooded my page with support, calling me the real craftsman and the quiet one who won. It felt surreal. Years of silence finally breaking. Not with anger, but with vindication. That same week, The local business magazine that once featured Ryan reached out again. This time, they wanted to do a profile on me. When the interviewer asked what my secret was, I smiled and said, "Hard work doesn't need to scream to be seen. It just needs to last." That line became the headline. I framed that issue and hung it in my workshop right above Dad's old tools. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Reputation built on truth doesn't crumble under pressure. Meanwhile, Ryan vanished from the public eye. No posts, no updates, just silence. But I had a feeling it wasn't the end of his story. Not yet. The kind of guilt Ryan carried didn't just disappear. It waited. It festered. And when it finally surfaced, it would hurt more than any failure ever could. It was a quiet Sunday morning when Mom called me. Her voice was trembling, caught somewhere between worry and regret. "He's been staying with me," she said softly. "Ryan's not doing well. He barely eats. He doesn't talk. He keeps saying he ruined everything." For a moment, I didn't know how to feel. A part of me wanted to say, "Good." The other part, the one that still remembered late nights in Dad's garage, laughing over burnt wood and crooked shelves, felt something closer to sadness. "I don't hate him, Mom," I said finally, "but I can't fix him." There was a pause on the line, then she whispered, "He told me what he did. To you, to the business. I'm so sorry we didn't see it." Her voice cracked, and I realized how deep the damage had gone, not just between me and Ryan, but through our whole family. Betrayal doesn't just break partnerships, it fractures bloodlines. Later that week, Ryan came to see me again, this time sober, quiet, and almost humble. He stood in my workshop doorway, eyes red, shoulders slumped. "I wanted to apologize," he said. "I thought if I had everything, I'd finally feel like Dad's favorite. But I just ended up destroying what mattered. The first time in years, he didn't sound like a salesman. He sounded human." I took a long breath and said, "I forgive you." His eyes flickered with hope, but I added, "But forgiveness isn't the same as trust." He nodded slowly. "I know." He left after that, and as the door closed, I realized something important. Revenge hadn't healed me. Distance had. I didn't need him to lose everything. I just needed to stop needing his approval. And in that moment, I finally felt free. Not victorious. Not vengeful. Just whole. But there was one final step before I could truly close this chapter. One last gesture that would rewrite what our father's legacy meant forever. A year later, I stood in my new workshop, a far cry from the cramped apartment balcony where it all began. Sunlight poured through wide windows, glinting off polished oak tables and neatly arranged tools. My employees, now a small team of 6, laughed as they packed finished orders for shipping. The smell of varnish mixed with the hum of saws felt like peace itself. I ran my fingers over the carved nameplate on my desk. True Grain Studio, founded by Daniel Matthews. My name. Not hidden, not erased, mine. That morning, I'd received an invitation from a local business expo asking me to speak about entrepreneurship, ethics, and legacy. It felt surreal. Years ago, Ryan had stood on stages built on lies. Now I was being asked to stand on one built from honesty. Before heading out, placed a new wooden plaque beside Dad's old chisel. It read, "Built with integrity, dedicated to those who believed in me when I didn't." A date. I carved one final line in memory of our father. After the speech, people lined up to shake my hand, to tell me how my story inspired them. One older man said, "You didn't just rebuild a business, you rebuilt what trust means." I smiled, because that's exactly what I had done. Weeks later, Mom visited the shop. She looked around, eyes wet but proud. "Your father would have loved this," she whispered. "I think he already does." I said, as she left, I noticed a figure across the street, Ryan. He didn't come over. He just watched for a moment, then walked away quietly. No words, no apologies, just silence. And somehow, that was enough. Because in the end, I didn't need revenge or validation. I had something far greater, peace, purpose, and a life built on truth. And every time I close the shop at night, I look at that plaque and remind myself, some things are worth losing everything for, because what you rebuild afterward is finally yours.